your best behaviors because it is being recorded today. So with that, I want to introduce, if you don't know him, one of our hosts, the amazing Rick Davis. Yes. He is with Studio USA, and he is all things media. So if you need anything, MLS pictures taken, any sort of videos, drone footage, all the things, he is absolutely fabulous. And if you do anything in his studio, he makes you look so good. So thank you for joining us today. We're super excited. You'll also see him at the white party. So yay. On brand. He'll be in all black. Our first guest today is Ashley Gentry. Come on up, Ashley. She is a broker and the president of MetroTex right now. So super excited for that. We're excited to hear what she has to say. And then we have Miss Sarah. Come on up. She is going to give us a lender perspective. Homes by Sarah is where you can find her. And then Lori Martin is a team leader as well as the incoming president for Women's Council of Realtors of Dallas. So we're going to get a lot of fun perspectives today. Can't wait for us to get started.
Yes. Can you bring that up?
Oh, perfect. Okay. I'm very confused.
Michelle, was it Knob and Key?
Knob and Key, yes.
Yes. So I was trying to get backwards.
It works either way. You need a key for the knob. So, hey.
There you go. And now I think we have a second microphone.
Do we? Oh, we do.
Or we can just pass the baton.
We're good.
And so we're going to have Michelle ask the questions. And then I can just hand the mic over here. So we're not just reaching in place.
I love it. Ashley, I'm going to start with you. Throw you under the bus first.
Always.
First question, before we get into the purpose of the panel, tell us what it means to be president of MetroTex.
Well, that's a loaded question in 2024, Michelle. We've got some past presidents in the room. Would you mind raising your hand if you are? We've got
Eloise.
Yes. And Becky Knatzer in here in the back. But, a big part of that was just knowing that the rapid changes in our industry were happening even several years ago when I decided to get more involved in MetroTex. And I really wanted to be part of the voice and have an opportunity to be an architect of what those changes look like. And so for me, it was people were speaking on my behalf, and I didn't always like the vernacular that they were using. So, there's obviously a lot that's going on right now, but I couldn't think of another year to be in this leadership position with everything. I mean, I think this might probably be one of our most monumental years. Is just it changes in the industry as far as how we're practicing. I mean, the disruption in real estate's been happening ongoing year after year, but I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to have an amazing staff, leadership team. I've got Alex Tyler here, who's on the board, and amazing advisors that have been in this seat before.
Awesome. Sarah, what is your outlook on these changes as a lender?
As a lender, I feel like it's going to provide a lot of transparency, right? I think if we look at everything in a positive perspective is the best way to look at it. It reminds me of when, I don't know if y'all remember when TRID happened, right? Remember how the sky was falling?
Panic.
45, 60 days to close on a loan, and our world is just going to be an absolute disaster. I remember at the company I was at, I was the very first person to close a TRID loan, and I did it in 14 days. And I remember just screaming it from rooftops, like, guys, it's going to be okay. And I remember during that transition, everybody was freaking out. I'm like, it's going to be okay. Like, our industry is we are smart. We are
Resilient.
We are resilient.
Yep.
If there's a way to figure out something to do, real estate agents, lenders, title, we can do it. You know what I mean? So I just remember that. And I want y'all to look at this as a positive thing, right? It's
awesome.
Provide transparency for everybody who's getting paid. And also a lot of agents, I want y'all to be, I'm worth it. I'm worth my commission. Y'all put in a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, tears, and you deserve that commission. And people were willing to pay it. And it's just all about how you present that, how you work around it.
It's about presenting value. Absolutely. I mean, as far as resilience goes, if we can show houses through COVID the way we did, we got this. I mean, some of the things we had to do. Oh my goodness. So here's a fun question for the group. What's the craziest rumor you've heard, if anything, about the NAR settlement and what kind of weird things are going to happen?
I don't know if I say it's crazy. I think it's more of the idea that having your own autonomous representation is no longer going to be valuable to a buyer. And I think that's just ludicrous. That just cheapens what we do currently as buyer advocates. And I think that's just a further realization of how we have not articulated our value out in the consumer public. And that falls on us. I mean, we're still seeing people sit there and post about multiple offers are back and, oh my gosh, I did this, or I sold a house, or I got my buyer under contract in one day, or whatever. And it continues to cheapen our value of what we do behind the scenes. And I think that's where we have to stand up and say, hey, this is all the stuff we're doing. And as much as I love the list that we see circulating of the 192,000 things that a buyer's agent does,
Oh my goodness.
realtors don't read, so neither does the consumer. And really, honestly, it's just more about telling the story and the narrative of what we do. I'm working with a VA buyer right now who, because of interest rates and her debt to income ratios, needed to be able to have about $9,000 to buy down her rate. And, you know, saved her closing costs, gets to do the 0% down, single mom, 2 boys, relocating here from Georgia, and needed to be near the military base in Fort Worth. And we knew that every house wasn't going to work for her because she needed that $9,000 to buy down her rate and make it work for her family. So it's also saying to her, hey, out of a list of 15 houses, maybe 5 of them are only going to work for us, because ultimately what the seller's willing to contribute has the way to dictate whether or not we're going to be able to pursue this.
Yeah.
And ultimately we got her an amazing house, and we got closing costs and title policy and a home warranty and a new roof and a bigger backyard across the street from a park, you know, all of these things. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just really teeing our buyers up for success. And then yesterday, literally when texting me while the inspector's texting us and saying, if I didn't have you, there's no way I'd be able to do this. And thank you so much, with a crying face emoji. Those are the stories we need to be telling out there, so people know we champion for homeownership.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Rick, you're out and about. You're meeting with agents and the general public.
I have the blessing and the curse where I'm in with a lot of different agents that are all along the spectrum, as far as brand new, up and fresh, champions, all the way to the seasoned pros like this, where that was a mic drop moment right there, where I actually just explained the value of a buyer's agent in like 15 seconds or less. And there's a way to articulate that and make that. So coming at it from the marketing side, those are the stories that need to be told.
Yep.
You know, and that's the kind of thing versus, you know, all the standard just sold or just listed or whatever sort of carbon copy content that people put out. It's the stories and the situations that actually illustrate the value. It's social proof. And so the idea that you can navigate this by yourself, like that gal should still be adored. You know, there's just no way that that's going to happen, or that it would happen with like, oh, I'm a buyer's agent, I'll do it for $100, or I'll take you around for a flat fee of $500 or $1,000. I heard everything where it's going to be baked into the loans, or it's going to be, you know, or you know, it's going to be negotiated up front, we'll sign a check in the, you know, the Kroger parking lot. It's like, that's how it works. And agents, one of the things that I've learned as a mortgage guy in a previous life, and this is all just giving me like chills and flashbacks, I'm probably not this time, but and morphing over into the marketing side was that it's never easy, and it's never just, oh, sign here. It's never the illusion that people give of, like, you get a listing, you take 5 photos, you put it up, and we have multiple offers by midnight. That hardly ever happens, if ever. And the idea that this isn't actually a job, that this isn't a valid career. So, for example, my nephew is an agent in South Lake, and he has been for 10 years, and he's killing it. But that's because he's a work ethic kind of guy. He's professional. He knows what he's doing. And so my statement there would be, the cream of the crop will remain. And we all know that it's a white hot market, artificially so, for quite a few years. And there are people that think they're all-stars, Hall of Famers, they shouldn't even be on the bench. And so there's going to be a lot of folks sacking groceries
Sure.
that thought they were rock star agents. And there's going to be the ones that have the work ethic and the grind mentality that they will ascend. And that's kind of it's so old fashioned. I'm the old guy. So it's like, it's so old fashioned, but it's absolutely 100% true. And like someone like that was like, yeah, totally 100%.
We're not that old.
Yeah.
Lori, as a team lead, what do you see changing with buyer's agents and how they'll need to adopt different business practices? I keep forgetting I have to pass the mic.
Well, you're going to have to get back to basics. I started in 2003, and the way I was taught how to do a buyer's presentation, you bring them into the office, you sit down, you explain to you what you're going to do during the process. You're going to teach them. Not everybody understands. Most people don't understand the process of buying and selling a home and what goes into it. So it goes back to what we've been talking about, selling your value proposition. If you can't sell your value proposition, you're not going to be in business. The good thing about this NAR thing, I mean, I always try to look at the positive. First off, real estate is very fluid.
Yep.
If you're not fluid, you're not going to make it in real estate. But it's going to get back to where you've got to be professional. So some of those agents, which I'm sure you've all have done a deal with, that are, oh, you end up having to do both your work and theirs too. You know, they're not going to stay in the business. So our reputation and what we do is going to improve. So buyers agents are going to have to sit down and actually work with them. The bad thing, we talked about COVID. The bad thing about COVID, what happened to those agents that came in during that time, they really didn't learn how to sell their value proposition. I kind of call them order takers. They just kind of came in and just, if you can write a contract, that's basically what you do. So those are the agents that are fearing. They're in fear over this because they're confused. We as team leaders, as brokers, you know, our job is to educate our agents, to dig deep into it and to teach them how to present like a listing presentation, basically. So
Awesome. How are lenders going to support agents in that capacity?
That is such a great question. So I think this is when it's so important to partner with a lender who is going to continue to cross-sell you and talk about your value and just reiterate that with that client. So one of the things that I do and anybody on my team does is we do a pre-purchase consultation with our clients up front. So we show them the value that we have, but we also do that for the agent. And we talk about how we can support them and how much value that they bring and how important it is to have a real estate agent on your team representing you and looking out for your best interests.
Love that. Love that, Rick.
So just to reiterate what Sarah said, so I've done Sarah's Leadership Academy. That's what it says. In my Council Leadership Academy to relevant leadership.
Heavyweight 28.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
Okay. The guy on day one who got a student pepper on the best ones, he'd be slipping.
Yes, he would. Dizzy did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not.
So I met her in Leadership Academy in 2015. And so the fact that she's still in lending and still in mortgage, you know, it's like, okay, that speaks volumes because I would already been on the bridge. And I also know Ash's lender personally. So I also don't begrudge him everything that he's going through, but he knows the extra mile, so I get it. And to reiterate all of that, then the other thing I'll say is on the content marketing side, I'm only going listing agents. And I'm going to go top producing listing agents because that happens to be like my little niche or wheelhouse. But those folks that were killing it before COVID, they were killing it during COVID, they're already killing it now. We've already had the 2 weeks of this month, we've already done more than we did the entirety of last month. And it is just absolutely, we are already going solid tomorrow, day after, and Monday. And now we've got this thing of trying to shoehorn people in. And it's like, hey, I love that kind of chaos. That's a good problem to have. But what that says is that for the ones that know what they're doing, it's business as usual all day long. And a couple of them are already not kicking their coverage from last year. So I want to see this as, for those, like I'll reiterate again, for those that treat this as a business and as a career and are professionals, not only will nothing have changed, it will separate the wheat from the chaff. And it will absolutely be some folks' best year ever. I'm already going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I'm saying too. And just going back to what Lori said, it's about being professional. Like that is, I'm seeing that in my industry. We're having to show up and face to face Zoom, be more in front of the client more than ever, and continue to show up in a professional manner and not so much casual. Oh, I'm just here. I can write a contract. I can do this. It is truly showing your value and showing up as a professional.
Awesome.
I just want to kind of piggyback over that. And this has been way too easy for some people. Being able to bank on a unilateral offer of compensation that's not contingent on performance is unacceptable. And I think if we really kind of think about it that way, it doesn't mean that there should be discriminatory practices. It doesn't mean that, we should go to the dark side as practitioners and not articulate the value of what a great marketing opportunity is to offer competitive professional service fees and compensation to a buyer's agent, because that's my teammate as a listing agent. And that casts the widest net of buyers to be able to bring a seller, a ready, willing, and able buyer that's going to be able to make the most aggressive offer. It's no difference than walking through a house and saying, hey, we got to talk about paint. We got to talk about carpet. We've got to talk about appliances. We've got to talk about, we just took a big hit on basis points and need to offer closing costs to incentivize because we've seen, it kind of dip the last 45 days. It's all about assessing what is going to get the most able-bodied buyers in that door. And if you can't articulate that as a listing agent, again, not to be ugly, but shame on you, you need to understand those things. And then as a buyer's agent, the same. If you can't negotiate your own professional service fees, what are you doing? Why are you advocating on their behalf to negotiate the largest purchase of their life? That's what I don't understand. And it's not to demonize new agents. We were all new at one point, but I do remember getting into the business 2 decades ago and investing in myself and looking for a brokerage that offered training, education, and mentorship. And along the way, we cheapened the value proposition of that. And so this ecosystem, it kind of comes back around and eats us at the same time because we stopped putting emphasis on investing in ourselves and training and knowing our craft. And in turn, it cheapened the value proposition that we were bringing to the consumer. And so I want to see that come back. I want to see education and mentorship and training be at the forefront of what realtors are looking for when they align themselves with a brokerage. And I know that's what I'm proud of being president of Metro Texas. Those are the conversations we're having, is saying with the brokerages, how do we partner with you? What do you need from us? Because we need to be your partner in education. We need to figure out how we bring those tools and resources to your agents, whether they're new or seasoned. And that's what we need to get back to, because that's what our buyers and our sellers both need for us. They need us to champion for homeownership alike. So understand, while this is challenging and in the midst of the lid stick of dynamite shoved up your rear as being a realtor, this is just one more thing we have to figure out, but it actually can be a positive because it levels us up and it increases the level of professionalism. And it's about time we start thinking about that again.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. That was wonderful. So first thing, I don't know if y'all noticed, Rick pointed out that he's booked pretty solid. So if you need some photographs on your listings, Studio USA, starting next week. Yes, send them to Cruz and your sellers will be so thankful. Question for Lori. What, kind of piggybacking on what Ashley had to say, what classes do you think would be ideal for a realtor to look into right now?
Well, again, remember, when you're going to meet with a client, you're on a job interview. And so, again, going back to selling your value propositions, I think the number one thing that I would go after, taking a class right now, and if I've taken this class, I'd refresh on it, is a negotiating class. I would learn to be a master negotiator. Here's the thing, guys. Again, with it being fluid, your negotiating techniques change every year, depending on what's going on, what changes have been made. So taking a new negotiating class or certification, that's what I would do.
Awesome. Awesome.
I want to say one thing and it's kind of been a light bulb moment for some people, but especially whether it's newer agents or as the documents are changing. I mean, know that right now there's a task force at Texas Realtors that is actively looking at our buyer representation agreements, our 1-to-4, our agreement between brokers, our listing agreements. And so those will change too, but it's okay to actually present forms in paper form and get wet signatures and explain them. We've gotten away from that. And I really do think electronic signatures have also completely devalued our selling our services. And so I would definitely challenge newer agents, or if you have colleagues that maybe are newer in the business, because I don't know how many of us remember sitting at a kitchen table with the contract upside down and going paragraph to paragraph, because how dare you just shove something in somebody's face and say, sign it. You actually have to explain it when you're in person. That maybe that's just a really rudimentary way to getting back to the basics and getting more comfortable with overcoming objections and having those, conversations around the different obstacles or positives that are in those representation agreements and in those contracts. So I would challenge you to kind of think about that too.
Awesome. And if I remember correctly, I believe, and someone stop me if I'm totally making this up, but I believe NAR is offering the accredited buyer representation class for free. It's a 2-day class online. They're booking out pretty quickly, so you may want to check that out if that's something you need or want to revisit. Hopefully that's all right. No one stopped me.
No, you are. Yeah, no, NAR is trying. I mean, they're trying to offer, immense opportunities so that we can do that. And that curriculum is probably going to change a little bit too.
Sure.
So I think we also need to be mindful that, even that aspect, we know what we can't do. We still yet to know what we truly can do. And so I think to your point, this is a fluid phase of going through all of this process. So I do think there will be continued changes that we need to be mindful of too.
Sarah, you probably deal with clients coming in on the front end, getting pre-qualified. Have they expressed any concern that we should know about?
I haven't personally had any kickback on that or clients asking me. But I am really great about talking to my agents when things change and saying, hey, make sure you're stating this up front, address these concerns. So that way they don't come up. If you're scared of the problem and you don't talk about it and you ignore it, it's going to come up, right? So it's the elephant in the room. But just talk about it. Hey, you may see this on the news. This is happening. And here's my value proposition. Here's how we're navigating this as an industry and how I'm going to help you navigate this. And then my job is to just solidify that with that client if they do bring it up, and continue to support that agent and lift them up and let that client know how valuable they are and how important it is to have them in their corner.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you. For the group, what do you see these changes, or how do you see these changes being a positive impact for the consumer?
Well, again, like I said earlier, it's going to force us to be much more professional. So we are all going to have to step up our game. And, again, when you're either sitting down in a listing presentation or a buyer's meeting, you're going to have to explain your value proposition, talk to them step by step. I was thinking about this morning on the drive over here. Back in the day, whenever I would sit down with a buyer or seller, I would tell them, my job is to make this to look as easy as possible. I'm only going to bring you in when I need to. You know what? There was times to where at the end of the contract, they would go, oh my gosh, your job sure is easy. You don't do very much or whatever. And I thought, So now we have to let them know what we're doing. So we keep them involved in all the processes. And I mean, of course, the back step, you don't want to make them a nervous wreck, because let me tell you something, most of these contracts that you go through, your job is to keep everybody's sanity intact. We're insane after it's all over, but
That's okay.
So, but you just want to make sure that, you explain to them during the process exactly what's going on, so that, again, you're selling your value proposition.
Toot your own horn, right? Like, here, even after you dealt with the problem, toot your own horn and say, you know what, this is what I did, and here's how I overcame it. And that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, you need a gold star. Like, that is so important. And sometimes, like, I do that for my clients. I'm like, hey, this issue came up, but here's how I overcame it, and here's how I'm getting you to the closing table. And therefore it eliminates that stress. You're not providing extra stress. You're saying like, hey, I did my job and I do, excuse my language, a damn good job doing it. So, and here's how I've been advocating for you in this transaction. Sorry.
You know, the other thing that's going to be great for the consumer is the fact that, especially in the state of Texas, that 45% of our Texas realtors have been licensed since COVID.
Wow.
I know, every time I hear that, I'm like, but
I think we need a moment for that.
right?
Oh
I
my
know. So
goodness.
nearly half of the realtors in the state of Texas have only seen the market since COVID. And that, I think, is it's a paradigm shift in how we can kind of look at why we're dealing with some of the nuances that we're dealing with. And that's really going to force a large population of newer licensees to really go back to drinking from the well and talking to their managers and their team leaders and seeking those classes and that education and that mentorship. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing that they're having to go and they're having to add new tools to their toolbox. And so that's good for the consumer. And as much as the seasoned agents are going, here we go again, this is one more thing that I'm gonna have to deal with, but it elevates our entire profession. And that right there is a good thing. So yeah, I mean, it's a scary stat, but it's also showing the prosperity and the meritocracy of what real estate brings as a profession. And that's still exciting, but we have to encourage our colleagues to continue to elevate their professional value proposition. And this is going to force them to do it.
Love that. Love that. Any last minute things you want to address or share? And we'll just go back down the line. That's important.
The thing that I'll just reiterate, and just like everybody else, the whole idea of being professional and, the fact that I deal with top producing listing agents, the ones that were doing the same things that they're doing now before COVID, they never slowed down. Their lives never looked any different than they do now. And so that means that they were doing what worked. Oh, and by the way, like, good marketing is tax deductible. So that is and then the other thing I would say is you are your brand. And again, I'll pardon my French, just like Sarah, is like, if you want to do a half-assed listing and that's the way you want to present yourself, then you don't deserve these things. In my world, in my mind, because I've seen the agents that take iPhone photos and post them, and they can't be bothered to do much else. And it's like, we've all seen it, we've all known it. It's like, hey, that's your business, follow up, knock yourself out, Now, 6 months from now, when you're sacking groceries, okay, fair enough. But again, the ones that have the consistency and who they are and how they present, they're not worried about justifying the commission. They've earned it. So it's a very cut and dry situation. And again, I'll just close with, it's a career, it's a real job, you are your brand. So that's on you as an agent.
Stop aiding in the hysteria. I mean, that's what we're doing right now. I mean, everybody got a minute to take a deep breath and to, have that panic moment, but that panic moment is over. And we need to stop talking about the exceptions and focus on the rule. And the rule is that the majority of you are in this room because you do want to do real estate the right way and advocate for the consumer. And remember that. Don't think that everybody's out there to get you and everything else. We're nervous. How do you think the consumers are nervous right now? The buyers and the sellers that thought that this was their year to achieve their goals. So we need to get back out being those champions and stop focusing on Chicken Little, the sky is falling, and figure out, if I have a concern, I need to go figure out the answer. And instead, because we have so many people in this room that if you picked up the phone and called them right now, they would answer and walk you through that. And I think that's what we need to do. This is a resilient industry of amazing colleagues. We are cooperative professionals. We are not competitors, or else we wouldn't be sitting here this morning and taking this time. So understand, we're here because we want to be, and this is an amazing industry, and that we are at the helm to make not only the transaction more peaceful and to look easy for the consumer, but we are their champion, we're their advocate, and we need to get back to doing that.
Just
Exactly. Yes. So good. So good.
I was going to say the same thing. We have to stop Chicken Little. Like, the sky is falling. Look at the positive. It's mindset. You can overcome anything. And as as a resilient community, we're going to continue to
Yeah.
overcome that.